Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring Cultos Innombrables. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review featuring this Lovecraftian role-playing game where you play as the cultists, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about character creation. As always, I am going to be translating this from Spanish to English. When it comes to character creation, this is quite different from other Mythos-based role-playing games. Because in Cultos Innombrables, you are creating normal people that became fascinated by the mysteries of the mythos, unlike investigators in other Cthulhu-style role-playing games, where they are normal people that are trying to stop the great old ones. The characters in Cultos Innombrables are trying to use the power of the mythos for their own benefit, for their goals, for whatever sort of plan or design they have. This doesn't mean that your character is always going to be a villain, but when it comes to wielding the power of the mythos, it's obvious that at most you're going to be an anti-hero. And despite having their own goals and objectives, these characters know that there is strength in numbers, and there is a greater chance of fulfilling their objectives, their quests, their missions, if they band together with other people that want to wield the power of the mythos. The rules to create cults are found in another section of this rulebook. We will talk about that in a future part of this review. But they also recommend that if you want, you could create the cult first, the organization, before creating the characters. It's all up to you. Now, when it comes to the steps of character creation, first you need to come up with a concept. This is a word or a phrase that summarizes or defines the concept of the character, that character's profession or title or vocation, purpose. It could be anything. They give you some examples here. Maybe you are a sinister librarian, or maybe your character is a visionary leader. Maybe your character is searching for the truth, or maybe your character is a serial killer. It could be anything. Then we have characteristics. These are basically attributes in other role-playing games. You divide a number of points amongst these characteristics, and I will tell you all about them, although I think they are pretty self-explanatory. For example, we have fortaleza, which is fortitude. It represents strength, sturdiness, resilience. Then we have reflejos, reflexes. This is the speed of reaction, coordination. Then we have will, which is voluntad here. This characteristic is all about presence, confidence, the way that you act in stressful situations, things like that. Then we have intellect, which is intellecto here, and it reflects the intelligence of the character, the capacity for reasoning, wits, using cunning, things like that. So you have two physical and two mental characteristics. They give you some benchmarks here, or ways to measure the skill of the character, how that character is capable when compared to other characters. So for example, a character with 3 on his characteristic, this is an average value. Or perhaps your character has 5 in something, this is above average, but you're still not very remarkable. Maybe your character has a 7 in something, this is quite remarkable, to the point that maybe you obtained some notoriety because of it. You have values between 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest and 1 being quite weak. For each of these characteristics, you should give or come up with a trait for that characteristic, because it's going to play out with the rules, as explained later on, as I will explain in a future part of the review. So for example, maybe your character is quite strong. You could give it the trait of broad shoulders or broad back, or maybe give him something like tough as nails if you want. Maybe your character is quite weak in fortitude, so you could say that your character is sickly, or maybe that character is somewhat of a slacker when it comes to exercise. So this applies to the different characteristics. Maybe your character is quite charismatic, or maybe your character has somewhat of a dull mind, or perhaps your character is very flexible and has feline-like reflexes. Then we have ethos. This is translated to English as milestones. This is actually the name of the core system. I haven't played too much when it comes to this ethos system, but in Spain, as I understand it, it's somewhat of it's an OGL system that has been used in other role-playing games, that is with other themes. So when it comes to milestones, you need to pick 4. These are phrases or descriptions that tell you about a very important or significant moment in the life of your player character. You can actually choose 2 of these to be secret milestones that are revealed during the adventure or campaign. So maybe your character survived some sort of accident, a car crash perhaps, where his family or her family died and he was the only survivor. Or maybe your character has traveled all across the world, or maybe your character participated in a war, or maybe your character won the lottery. Maybe your grandfather had some passages or perhaps the entire book, the Necronomicon. Perhaps your character has never lost a fight. Or maybe your character recently found out that he or she is adopted. So as you can see, all of these different milestones can be used to tie up the character with something that happens in the adventure or the campaign, to make it a bit more personal. So for example, in the case of the character that was adopted, maybe that character's parents come from Innsmouth. Or maybe if you suffered some sort of tragedy, it is related to some cult that was tampering with the powers of Cthulhu or Nyarlathotep. It could be anything that you can think of. So there's a lot of richness when it comes to connecting that character with an event during the campaign, or perhaps with one or more plotlines within the story. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part, I am going to continue talking about the character creation process, with other details such as skills, drama, quotes, and the like. So as you can see, this character creation process really starts to flesh out the personal history of the character that you are creating, and makes it very clear from the start that you are playing as a normal person that somehow got involved with the whole Mythos situation, with all of those rituals and alien species and strange races from beyond time and space. And this character is just trying to get some sort of advantage in his or her life. It doesn't mean that character is serving the great old ones. That character may actually be actively opposing the forces of the Mythos, but at the same time, any character that you create in this role-playing game is trying to wield the very power that he or she is confronting, using the power of the enemy against the enemy, but also using it for your own benefit. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.